All right, welcome to those our attendees. We are broadcasting live, and we're going to pull in those on Facebook in a few moments. So for those that are connected to Facebook, make sure you go to our page, Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, and like the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, and then share our live stream. And we're going to get started in a few moments while we let more and more attendees come on in. So we are now live on Facebook. Welcome everyone to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Marketing and PR Committee conversation with Jorge Placenta and Jessica Motkins. This is going to be an exciting event. We have some of the pillars of South Florida marketing here today, and we're extremely excited for this conversation, very important conversation with the Chamber. We are live on Facebook, so for those that are on Facebook, please share this. You can click the link in the description if you want to join in and ask questions. Feel free to join us through Zoom. If you click that link, do a quick registration, you will join in and you can be an attendee. That'll give you the opportunity to ask questions in the Q&A box, in the chat, and possibly even come on and ask your questions with this distinguished group that we have here. So we are very excited for everyone to be in, and we're going to just give a few more moments for those of us to join in, get the setup right so that we can have this conversation. So this event is part of our marketing committee, and we have a few committees, actually 11 committees as the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. We enjoy making sure that people get the latest and best information and hear from the people that are pillars in these industries so that we know the latest of what's going on. So with that, I want to welcome again everyone. I want to introduce our president of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Gordon Eric Knowles.
Well, Matt, thank you so much. I'm excited about being here today. I'm excited about our panel. Miss Jessica Garrett Motkins, what can I say about Hip Rockstar and all the work that she's doing in our community? She's the chairwoman of our marketing and PR committee. She's the president of Hip Rockstar and just a go-getter here in our community, hailing from South Miami down in the Parian area. So we really appreciate all the work that she does throughout Dade County and throughout South Florida. And she's been a member of the Chamber for many years and very engaged with the Chamber. And my other guest that I have coming on today is a friend for many years, Mr. George, or as we say, Jorge A. Plasencia. He's the co-founder and chairman and CEO of Republica Havas. And George and I have been around, we've been friends since our Marlins days when he was doing marketing and PR with the Marlins. Before they became the Miami Marlins, they were the Florida Marlins. And we both work for a gentleman, when you talk about marketing and PR, probably one of the greatest at it, Wayne Heisinger. He took 3 companies to Fortune 500. When you talk about AutoNation, you talk about George, what was the video company?
Blockbuster. We all grew up on Blockbuster.
Yeah, and Waste Management. Mm-hmm. So that's who George weaned himself in getting in this marketing game. So I'm going to get out of the way and turn this conversation over to Jessica, who will be basically having a conversation with George. We talked about this for a while, about how can we, get with one of the greats. And George is one of the greats when it comes to building a marketing team. So I'm getting out of the way, turn it over to Jessica. Thanks, Jessica. Thank you.
Eric, if I could just say thank you. I mean, you and I, like you said, we go way back, including the '97 World Series, which we'll both never forget about. And, that's, I think, been my connection and friendship to you has always been a winning one. You're a winner, and you've always inspired me to win and do the best I can. And anything that you need from me, I always try to help the chamber in any way I can. And it's just such an honor to be here today with you, and to be here with Jessica. Like she said, we've been talking about this for a while, so I'm excited to be in both of your amazing presence. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, George, and thank you, Eric. Just so that everyone is on the same page, I need to set the stage for who we're talking to and why this conversation is so important. As they've said, we've been vying to have this conversation with George for a few years now, and I want to start with a quote from 2015 from the president and editor-in-chief for Inc. magazine in regards to your company, Republica Havas, who for 5 years was ranked as America's fastest growing private company. And he said, and I quote, "Only a tiny fraction of the nation's companies have demonstrated such remarkable, consistent, high growth, particularly in the difficult economic environment of the past few years. This achievement truly puts Republica in rare field company." So my question to start this off is, how do you go from conception of an agency in such a short period of time to being listed on Inc. magazine's 5,000 annual list?
You know what? It's a great question. I think you put one foot in front of the other, and you wake up every morning and keep going, as you know, Jessica. I mean, I think, we started, if I can take you a little back, we started November of 2006. If you think back to that year, Twitter launched that year, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg took it from college campuses to the masses. Why do I say that? We weren't an agency that was more of a traditional agency. It had to reinvent itself. We were digital, social, mobile from the beginning, right? And I think that what helped us endure through the tough times, we're not economists, so we launched November of 2006. Probably an economist would not have started a business, minus a service business, an advertising agency, in November of 2006, because you know what came soon after, which was the Great Recession, right? Despite the Great Recession, Jessica, Republica grew every year. And I think it was because we stayed very focused on delivering at the highest level for our clients. We stayed very focused on creating those meaningful relationships with our clients and between our clients and their consumers, that I'm proud to say, today, years later, Jessica, some of those early clients that started with us back then are still clients of the agency today. And I'll give you an example here in South Florida. One of our beloved South Florida, well, Florida, because they're also in Central Florida, but Sedano's. We've been their agency now about 12 years. Nielsen, about 11 years. And so Baptist Health, about 10 years now. I say that because, going back to your question about the top privately owned companies at the time, I think we made that list for 5 years in a row because we just stayed hyper-focused on delivering at the highest level for our clients and building a great team internally that was inspired to deliver at the highest level for our clients. So I think that was it. We just worked really hard. No sleep, 24/7 during that time, because as you know, during the Great Recession, kind of like during 2020, we've all had to work so much harder, right? Because it's been such a different reality. Same thing happened during that time of the Great Recession. It was really tough to be in an advertising, to own an advertising agency during that time, because, as you know, many times the first thing that gets cut is the marketing budget.
Right.
So we had to deal with that. We had to deal with that during that time. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. and even going back a little further, advertising is not the average industry. It's not education. It's not government. It's not the medical field. How on earth did you find yourself in this industry of advertising? Were you just born a creative person? What happened?
I think it's just like you with your firm. I think that you have to be a little, you have to have that creative fire to start this sort of a company, right? Because it is a company where, as I always like to say, there's science behind the art, right? You may see an ad, a TV commercial or a billboard, or you may get served a digital display ad, but there's a lot of science behind that ad. And that's why I think I love what we do so much, because it marries art and science, right? It marries the art and the creative with the strategy, right? And as I like to say, strategy is the base of everything, the foundation of everything we do in our industry. And that's why I enjoy what I do so much, because no 2 days are the same and no two clients are the same. Each one of our clients, they're all unique, and they're all in the services they provide, in the organizational makeup of their structure, so it's definitely an opportunity where you really build these deep bonds with your clients, because you get really entrenched deeply in their business, right? You get to know their business inside out, and that's what I enjoy. Now, you asked me, how did I get here? Make a really long story short, my dad was a banker at a bank called Republic National Bank here in South Florida. He was one of their top executives. The bank was sponsoring a radiothon for the National Parkinson Foundation at a radio station here in Miami. I went, I volunteered there answering the phones. I was 14 years old. I loved it. I loved the energy, the excitement, the vibrancy of the radio station. I'd say back then that was like working at Google today. It was working at that radio station. It was the vibrancy. And I remember coming home and saying, my brother's older than me, and saying, man, I just loved it. I loved it. And my brother said, why don't you ask for an internship? Well, Jessica, I went back. I was 14. About 2-3 weeks later, had my mom drop me off on my own, asked if I could have an internship, started as an intern there. And that put me on this path to then worked in radio all throughout high school and college, weekends, summer jobs, all that, college. And then from then went to work when I worked with our amazing Eric Knowles, and went to work at the Marlins. From the Marlins, I went to go work for Stefan Enterprises, Gloria Stefan and Emilio Stefan's company. I started as head of marketing there, and then was promoted to vice president, was there for a number of years. We were managing or producing some top talent at the time. Then I got a call to go back to media, to radio, but on a national level. So I ended up going to a company that ended up joining forces with Univision, ended up becoming Univision Radio. I headed up marketing and communications and all that there. And then in 2006, with a good friend who was a creative and designer who had a great creative shop, we joined forces and started Republica. That's in 2006. So Louis and I, my business partner, we started in November of 2006. It was 14 years on Friday.
Excellent segue, and congratulations on your 14th anniversary. Tell us about Republica. Tell us about your firm. I know it's service. I know you started with digital, but what does a day-to-day look like with your agency?
Day-to-day, to be honest with you, in COVID, during COVID, it's been just as hectic. Yet it's unfortunate many times I feel that I'm sitting at my desk today, but this place is empty because everyone's working from home. I came in today to work on something for a presentation, but we're all working from home. But the energy and that magic that gets created, obviously, when strategy and creative and all of us are together in a room, obviously, I'm longing for that, right? Because we're doing it, but we're doing it through Zoom. And good news is, we've been able to do it. We've been able to thrive and to succeed this year. It has not been an easy year, of course. It's been a roller coaster of a year. We've had to make tough decisions at times. We've had to, obviously have clients that have had to, several clients that due to the industries they're in, they had to scale back, right? But to your question, we are truly from early on, we established Republica as a truly full service marketing communications agency. What does that mean? That we can handle all facets of marketing communications for a brand, from strategy, as I've said, to creative, to media planning and buying, to social, all digital, events and experiential. I mean, it runs the gamut of all of the services that maybe some firms are more. We also have public relations. I don't know if I said that, but some firms may be more PR focused, or more creative focused, or more media planning and buying focused. From day one, we set out to build a solution for clients that were looking for the gamut of services. That said, it doesn't mean that we don't have solely PR clients, or solely advertising clients, or solely digital clients. Of course, you know, if great brands want to work with us and they're brands that, you know, we can do meaningful work together and we inspire each other, you know, we'll take on of course the work. But we do have a number of clients to this day where our work spans a lot of the services that the agency provides. Again, like I was saying earlier, clients based here in South Florida, but also clients on a national level. And I'm proud to say also, we have several clients that we handle globally, worldwide. So it's been it's been quite a ride in that regard too, because again, we started as more of a local regional firm, then got our first national client, then we got our second, third, whatever. And then now proud to say that for a few clients, one that you all may know well, because it's a very popular brand of spirits, wine brand, Santa Margherita Wines, which is a wine brand out of Italy. We're their agency for the world. So yeah, that's us and what we do here. That
is remarkable. And I know that I'm not the only person that's really getting off on this conversation, because there's a lot of other people who kind of understand what it is that you're talking about. And you're making me go in another direction right now, what you're saying, but I just want to know that—
You're the boss here, Jessica. I'll go wherever you tell me.
Look, after you did your first million, your second million, have you had an opportunity to just step back and really look at what you've been able to build?
When you're saying in regard to our billings as an agency and what have you, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and the amount of lives that you've touched.
Right.
With
it's interesting, because when I worked for Gloria Estefan, right, that I worked there a number of years and have a great friendship with them, which is something that I always say to younger folks: always leave with your doors open, right? It doesn't matter if you're going off to better pastures, of course, but always leave with your doors open. And if there's something that I learned from her, there's many things that I learned from Gloria. She's incredible, and from Emilio. But one of the things that I remember she would say often back then was the responsibility she felt with all the lives that she had on her shoulders throughout all of their businesses. And Jessica, you're a business owner, so you know this. Until you have to pay other people's salaries, you don't realize what that's like. Because I remember I was oblivious until I had to do it myself. In the first few years of Republica, because of the recession, there was many, many times where, I didn't take home any money for a while, because I would say, no, do I pay myself or do we pay this vendor? Do I pay myself or do we apply that to salary, right? And that's not it. The becoming an entrepreneur is phenomenal. It's awesome. And I know here at the Chamber, we have a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners and small business owners, and they all know that it takes a sort of individual to be an entrepreneur, right? I hear from friends all the time, you know what? I'm not meant for it. I don't feel I have what it takes. I disagree with that. I think that most of us have what it takes. You just have to, like I said earlier, put one foot in front of the other and charge ahead, right? Because being an entrepreneur, it's like I say, blood, sweat, and tears, because there's days that are very painful. There's days that are amazing. There's days that are hard. Especially when you're in our business is a business of people. yes, we use computers and we have data and we have softwares and what have you, but it's, those computers can't create what our individuals create through their wits, through their brains, through their smarts, through their souls, right? Because to create a campaign for a brand, you gotta really get into tugging at the heartstrings of people and really connect emotionally. And again, a computer, it's hard to do that, right? So we're all about people, and when you've gotta pay the bills, that's tough, right? But to your question specifically, do I take a step back and smell the roses and reap the reward, the blessings? Yes. I do need to remind myself to do it more often. And it's in little moments, because I believe life is about moments, right? And it's in those little moments that I'm able to take a step back and appreciate a kind word from an employee, appreciate an email from a client saying you guys knocked it out of the park, appreciate getting the call that we knew we were one of the 2 finalists for a new piece of business and we got that piece of business. Appreciate that a pro bono campaign got one person to stop abusing a child, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So it's those moments, I think, Jessica, which are, micro moments, because I'm 46, right? So am I going to go off and, spend 6 months on a deserted island? At some point in my life, I'd love to do that, but I'm definitely not there yet. I still have a lot to do, right? I think, for now, going back to what I was just saying, I take those moments to just bask in the fact that, we've created something special. This past Friday was our 14th anniversary. We got, unfortunately, usually every year we have a big celebration here for everybody, and we'll do something different every year. We brought food trucks. We've given people, we've brought masseuses in and they get like chair massage. And we do all sorts of fun things, right, on our anniversary. And we always take a group picture. And, we did it on Friday, but we did it virtually through Zoom. But it was really special because we had obviously different folks speak, our leadership speak, but I asked a few of the people that have been with us since day one to speak, right? And the ones that have been here for 14 years, to hear them say, what's kept me here is the people and the family that we've built, and that for me is really important. And even with the ones that have moved on, like I said, to better pastures, because, there's, God knows I did it throughout my career. We've always stayed connected. We've always stayed in touch. They've always recommended us to potential clients. They've sent potential employees our way. So that's the thing, right? You don't have to, like I was saying, you don't have to shut the door closed. You could keep the door open because that's what it's about. So I think all of that helps me kind of cherish the fruits of what we've built here.
Wonderful. Wonderful. As it relates to your clients, how do you go about, or how have you been able to receive most of your clients? Is it through networking, RFPs, pools, referrals? What has been your secret sauce for success?
I would say it's like, I think if I could say E, I don't know how many it was, but E, all of the above. Okay. It's been a little bit of all of the above. I would say early on, the first 3 to 5 years, it was definitely knocking on a lot of doors, reaping the fruits of friendships and relationships from past facets of my career, of Lewis's. I would say that then we went from that to starting to receive RFPs, as the agency started winning some awards and getting known, started receiving RFPs. So submitting for RFPs was kind of the next phase. Then the next phase, I think, has been clients, because, the higher the clients, the brands you work for, what ends up happening, which is pretty cool sometimes, is your clients may not be the CMO or the CEO or the top people, but some of, the people at the director level, senior manager, VP level, they get poached by other clients, right? Not competitors, but other brands. And then they say, you know what, I want to bring my agency with me, or I worked with this agency for a long time. Let's include them in the RFP process. So that, which is, I would say, just building relationships with people throughout, over the years, relationships of mutual trust and respect and what have you. And then I would say the final one, which is, again, really important, is through reputation of the agency, right? So they hear that we win a key award, or they hear that we won a new piece of business, or that we put out a research a project or what have you. And, that helps. What I love the most is when we get an unsolicited email to our new biz email address. I know you love these too, where it's, hey, we'd like to, I'm with so-and-so brand, and we'd like to set up a call or a meeting to discuss your services, right? When that happens, that is phenomenal, because again, that email specifically is based on reputation or is based on somebody recommending us. But if they're emailing our general email address, most of the time it's that they've heard that we've done great work for another brand and they want to consider us for their brand. So, and I'm happy to say that we do get those, we still get those often, those new biz at republicahavas.com. And those are always nice. Those are always nice because, again, they come from out of the blue, and it's a new opportunity. It's an opportunity to connect with a new potential partner, right? So that's been key. And then obviously, relationships in the community has always been paramount for us. We've been very vested in our community here in South Florida. We've also been vested nationally with different organizations. I was on the board for 10 years and chair of the board for 3 of the largest Latino civil rights nonpartisan organization in DC. It used to be called the National Council La Raza. Now it's called Unidos US. So it's it's very similar to the Urban League, let's say, for the Latino community. It's been around since 1968. And, obviously through my work there and work in other things, you meet people, you get to know people, and you build those trusted bonds, right? And when they have an opportunity, they pick up the phone and say, hey, we'd like to consider you and your team for XYZ, right? So good news is that does happen from time to time.
So our next question is just about random life. So sometimes you may think back on a situation and say, I wish someone had told me this. If this had happened, I would have done that. What do you wish someone would have possibly told you early on? Or what type of advice can you give to other agencies who are trying to feel their way through things right now, especially in this current climate?
Especially this climate. Advice that I wish someone would have given me. I would say the best advice that I remind myself is that days that maybe things don't go the way we planned, or something doesn't go the way, because there's, like I've said, there's great days and tough days and what have you, is not to lose hope, right? There's always tomorrow. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's so true, right? It's so true that every day we have an opportunity to wake up and make the best of that day and do the best we can. And one thing that I've learned, and advice that I could give, is I'd rather try and fail than not succeed because I'm scared to fail. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'd rather do my best to make it happen. And maybe if something doesn't happen, it is what it is, but you gave it your all. Whereas and I've learned that with clients of ours, and I won't mention any specific names, But we have clients that are huge, amazing clients, global clients, whatever, national clients, that they will launch things and they'll see if they work. And 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, a year into it, they'll do a post, they'll keep analyzing, and then they'll just pull it. You know what? XYZ initiative didn't work, but they tried it, right? What if it would have, what if, you know, so I think that's what's important, you know, but they launched, let's say they launched 20 initiatives. If 2 don't work, 18 did, but not to launch them because you're scared that they're not working. So I that's just advice that I give. Another piece of advice is you will suffer a lot, but pull through, you know, because again, you know, things that maybe you wouldn't do unto others, but that, you know, from, you know, whatever, just keep pulling through, you know, don't let those things, whatever they are, you know, affect you, your convictions, your humanity, your focus. Because again, you know, like I said, you know, there's times that, you know, that I bet many people, God knows I've been there, you're like, you know, how are we going to make it through the next payroll, you know, because you have 3 clients that for different reasons haven't paid yet, or, you know, how are we going to pull through this week when these 2 key people are not in the office because they're sick, or whatever it is, right? There's those moments that we all have. And, you know, when things are in the rear view mirror, they're never as horrible as they are as you're living them, right? Because in the end, as you look back, you can see the lessons you learned, the people you met, you know, and I even feel this way of, you know, I'm involved with a nonprofit here for children called Amigos for Kids. And it might be, and Eric knew her, a cousin of mine who's the president and CEO, and I was sitting right here in my office, October 9th of 2018, 2 years ago, when I got a phone call that she had died of a massive heart attack, right? Imagine what that moment meant for me, right? We had just come out of another person that worked here, who Eric also knew, Wendy Grant, who was one of our top executives. You know, she had been battling cancer for many years. Her mom had died of breast cancer, and she had been battling it privately. Rosa, we did a celebration of life for Rosa, for Wendy, on Friday, October 5th. Rosa was sitting in the second row, okay, that Friday. Tuesday, 4 days later, Rosa, who was sitting in the second row at her friend's celebration of life, has now passed. You know, as I look back on that moment, oh my God, you have no idea how difficult and horrific that time was for me, losing Wendy and Rosa. What do I do now? I celebrate their life and legacy every day. I say to myself, what would Rosa do? What would Wendy do? Right? So I think that's just an example of how, you know, and I remind myself that they're in a better place, right? So, but obviously that's speaking to people, but it's very similar when you're speaking to business and when you're speaking to situations, right? Because situations can really affect us as human beings and as individuals. You know, losing a client, and, you know, something with a coworker, whatever it is. But in the end, I think advice is that as it's in the rearview mirror and you're able to reflect on it, it's always going to be something deeper and more of a lesson. And if it's a person who you've lost, it's about how special that person was, and how you have to consider honoring that person, like I do with my father every day.
Yes, that's good. We've been talking most of our time now about marketing, PR, and from an agent point. But let's shift gears just a little, and I would love to see if you can offer some advice to some of the business owners that are watching this interview. And they may have a thought that they aren't at a place where they can hire an outside agency and firm to manage their PR strategies, marketing strategies, do their ad buys, create their media plan. what are some advice that you can give to those companies to manage it for themselves right now?
You know, the advice that I would give them is if they're doing it on their own, I would recommend that even if they're a company that that company could always go out and possibly bring interns on, you know, that are marketing, PR, communications interns, that as part of their internships for credit. We pay our interns also at Republica. Some universities don't require that you pay them, but interns are a great way because they are, and by the way, there's internships, as you know, not only in undergrad, but in grad school for masters, right? So some of those students would be totally open to taking on potentially a smaller business because it would look great for a case study for them, right? Hey, I helped XYZ business, you know, grow from X amount of customers to X, or on social media, their following grew from X to X, you know, whatever it is. You know, my advice would be that whatever these business owners could do in regard to marketing and communications, to always make their company and brand seem bigger than maybe they think it is. You know, because I think us as human beings, we're kind of gun shy at times to beat our drum. I know I am many times. I am because you know you don't want to you don't want to come across like you're selling yourself or what have you. But what I've learned, especially in social media worlds, is that it is so important to get your message out there consistently. How do you get your message out there consistently? Well, I mean, you create, let's say the business is and I'll use for lack of a better example, a restaurant, okay? So let's say you own a restaurant here in South Florida, and your restaurant, you want to grow your restaurant's, patrons at your restaurant for takeout orders. Well, you can easily target the people that live in the vicinity of your restaurant through social media. You can target those people and serve them ads for not a lot of money. So the good thing about social media is that for what, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would have had to place radio ads and print ads and what have you. Yes, we still do all that today, but for a smaller business, you can definitely serve folks in a restaurant serving, the pun is intentional. You could serve folks advertising that targets them, right? So social is such a great way to reach people today. Another great way to reach people that isn't very costly and that businesses can do is, public relations. Getting your message out there through not only a press release, but getting your local publications to write about you, to write about something different that your business is doing, to write about maybe an anniversary the business just had, or a new piece of equipment that the business just acquired, or you expanded your restaurant, or whatever it is. But that earned media that we call in public relations is such a great way to get your name out there. Myself, I read all those things that get served to me about restaurants and about things happening in my neighborhood and in my area, because I want to know what's going on, right? And like me, I see everybody on Nextdoor. We're probably all on Nextdoor. That's a great place to, and again, as we're talking about a restaurant, to say, hey, at XYZ restaurant, for everyone that lives in the 33155 area code, if you show your driver's license, you get free appetizer. That's getting people in the door, right? And it's not a very costly way to do that because Nextdoor, for example, is not that expensive. But you're getting folks in. I remember Luis, my business partner, this was before Republica, he worked with the Merchants Association of Coconut Grove to start something called Code 33. They created Code 33, and that means if you live in the 33133 area code, zip code, and you present your license in the Grove, you get a discount at different restaurants. Brilliant. I think that sort of thing small businesses can do all the time, right? So I think it's that, right? At the end of the day, if you could hire a marketing consultant, maybe not an agency, maybe not a firm, but a consultant that could help you with this, and you could invest, and I repeat the word invest, some dollars to that to help you hone your messaging and hone your brand and hone how you're out there. There are folks there are consultants that will take on your small business, and will take on your small business for for a fraction of what maybe a full-fledged firm or agency would take on, right? So yeah, and then another great way is community, giving back to the community. Showing up at the food drive, at toy drives, at partnering with nonprofit organizations. Again, it's a symbiotic relationship you're creating with those nonprofits, because they help promote your brand and your company, and at the end of the day, you're helping the community, right? So that's a win-win. By supporting nonprofits and community endeavors where your logo starts popping up, that and again, many times that's for you don't have to invest for $25,000 sponsorship. They have $500 ones, they have $250, they have $1,000 ones, and at the end of the day, it's a tax write-off too, right? So all those sorts of things I think are important to think about.
So as we are getting ready to wrap this up, I want to bring Eric back and Matthew back. I believe we're going to take questions from our audience. I wanted to find out, are there any organizations that you would recommend for any ad agencies or PR shops to join?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the ones that I think are always important. Miami has a great ad fed, a group from the Advertising Federation, PRSA for public relations. There's several on the creative side and on the design side. There are, on the national realm, there's national organizations, for African American and Black marketing executives, right? There's the Hispanic one called Culture Marketing Council. There's one for AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islanders. So there's these organizations that, even if you think, my firm yet isn't a national firm, it doesn't hurt to join those organizations, right? Because you start getting on their radar. You start showing up at their conferences. You start showing up on their webinars. And you'd be surprised that little by little, you're on the radar, right? And they start saying, so-and-so, I remember so-and-so from Miami or from Fort Lauderdale or from Cutler Bay, we should consider them for this project. Because many times these firms do need to bring in small businesses or minority-owned firms or what have you, right? So it always helps to show up, not only in the local ones, but I would also say in a few of the national ones. Yeah.
Okay. I got AdFed, PRSA. What was the national one specifically for African Americans?
Okay, well, there's one recently that was launched after in recent months called 600 and Rising, which is more for creatives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's more for creatives, and there is at the ANA, there's one that I'm involved with too, called AIMM, AIMM, which is the Alliance for Inclusive and Multicultural Marketing. I would say that's the one that's more encompassing of African American and Hispanic and Asian. It would be AIMM, AIMM. Yeah.
That's good. Eric, you gonna jump in?
I'm here. Great conversation.
Thank you, my friend.
Both of you, I truly have been enjoying it, and I'm sure those who are listening. The one question, and I'm obviously we are a chamber, and a lot of our businesses are small businesses. So a lot of times people don't know what they don't know. A lot of times they think they could do it themselves. And, it was interesting what you said, George. We do tend to play ourselves down versus, really uh, being robust about who we are and where we're going with our business. So I think that's very important. But and then the other thing you said about getting a consultant, you may not be able to hire a full blown
Yeah,
advertising
that was good.
company, but getting a consultant to work with you. And I think anyone who I talk about it all the time about having the back of your house together. I mean, you can be great at you may be a cook, you may be a cleaner, or whatever it is. You may be a great accountant, you may
Sure.
be a great attorney, but you still have to market yourself. And so I talk about having the back of your house together. And to me, it's very important that that's a part of your team, your marketing and your PR. I mean, you have to have a lawyer. You should have a lawyer. You should have an accountant. You should have a CPA. But through all of that, as you said, um, unfortunately, a lot of times when things get tight, marketing and PR gets thrown out the window. But at the same time, you got to let people know that you're still in business. So
Mhm.
it's a catch 22 situation, in particular in challenging times. But when I say that, also you as a business person need to know how to do these things for yourself to a certain degree.
Totally, totally. That's so right, and you're right on, because what ends up happening is when you, like you said, marketing gets cut. Um, what happens many times when marketing gets cut is it may not happen right away, Eric, but 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, you see that brand start to erode, right? Because it's not front and center as it used to be. So that's why I always speak to, in our business and in what we do, it's an investment. It's an investment in your company, in your product, in your service, and whatever you're marketing, right? It's an investment because if companies that see marketing as an expense, it's not the way to see it. They have to see marketing as an investment. If they see marketing as an investment, they may cut something else instead of marketing, right? And they may say, you know what, during tough times, we got to take away from XYZ and we got to focus on marketing. We know companies here that were building new headquarters and they put those on hold because they said, you know what, we can't focus on the new headquarters right now. And it's literally construction stopped, unfortunately, and said, we got to focus on the brand because the brand is our prized possession. But unless, CEOs and chief and C-suites and chief marketing officers and CFOs, important, see that value in the brand, uh, I think it becomes an issue for that company because again, cutting marketing is not smart, in my opinion. I guess I know I'm biased, right? Obviously, but I'm speaking from the heart because I would say this. I would say this if I was on the other side. I would say this if I was on the client side. I'd say, you know what, guys, let's see where else we can cut.
As I
But
said, you got to let people know that your doors are still open, and if you're not letting them know that you're, in particular, during these hard times.
oh, 100%. 100%. You have to let them know that what you stand for and what your brand stands for, and even especially during hard times, right? And this has been a really, as for all of us, it's been a really difficult year, right? And in many regards, right? Um, but you see the companies um, that leaned in and changed their way a little bit and shifted their messaging a little bit. You see how those companies are doing really well despite the times because they realized that they needed to keep investing in the brand, right? And in shifting the brand message with the times.
I know we have a few folks on. I don't know if we have any questions. If you'd like to type your question into the chat, question and answer, we can get that. If anyone on Facebook has any questions for George or Jessica. If you could type that in, we'll take a few minutes.
Oh, is Carol Ann Taylor on here?
Yes, Carol
Oh
Ann.
my
yes,
God.
you've been praise since we started.
Speak
You
to
said
somebody.
you're so
Listen,
understated, the
speak
extent
to-
of your
Can we talk about Carol Ann Taylor for a second?
Absolutely.
I mean, the amount of love and respect I have for this wonderful lady is just incredible. I remember being a kid, I had a summer job at, I don't even know if, Carol, if you even know this, but I had a summer job at Bayside Marketplace. And I remember this amazing woman and how she was building this Bayside to go store and how committed she was and how hardworking she was. And years later, I was able to call her my friend and someone that I just care for and admire deeply. And I see your note here, Carol Ann, and thank you for your words. I mean, I'm not understating myself and my career. I am, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, Carol Ann, you mentioned Celia Cruz, which, as you all knew, she was the queen of salsa. She was a dear friend. And when Celia was on her, she was very sick. She had a few months to live. She called me and asked me if I would. She entrusted me with her funeral and it was one of the biggest. I don't know if you remember, but it was one of the biggest in 2003. One of the biggest funerals in the history of South Florida and in the history of New York City, because we flew her to Miami. And we did it in Miami, and then continued it because she lived in New Jersey. We continued it in New York, and she's buried at the Bronx Cemetery. But Celia was a dear, dear friend, and I got to work very closely with her, her husband Pedro, may he rest in peace, and Omer, her manager. So, but thank you, Carol.
Can you hear me, Jorge?
I can hear you perfectly, my friend.
I love you back. We've had a lot of years together.
A lot of years, my friend. I care for you so much, and you're such a treasure to this community, to the business community, to the arts community, to the philanthropic community. Caroline and I have served on the board of the Arts Center together for many years now too. In addition to our friendship, and her commitment to this community is second to none. I care for you deeply.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol Ann. And you know how I feel about Carol Ann Taylor.
She's too young, but she's a legend she's too young to be a legend, but she is a legend.
No, she's been a fighter for the community. She's been one of those, I guess I would say, a change agent.
She's a change agent. She is.
And like you said, building Bayside to go, Little Havana to go.
Oh, no, yeah, all of those. At the airport, Miami to go. But I remember the first one, right? Carol Ann, was Bayside to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The first one, yes.
I remember it vividly. I remember I was a kid working at Bayside, and I remember that vividly. So
That was actually my favorite store.
it was such a special store. It was so cool. And then yeah, it was such a great store. Anyway. So
I know we got a couple other PR and marketing folks on here. Anthony, Jack.
Eric, one moment. I did want to make sure that I was able to ask George this. One thing that we touch on was that you represent a lot of different brands. And then you had the George Floyd incident, which was horrific and continued to shape the very fabric internationally of all walks of life. I wanted to know from any of the brands that you were working with, was there a moment or a period in which they reached out to you to ask for your advice on restructuring, refocus, retooling some of the things and messaging that they had in place? Was that something that your agency across? And what did that look like?
We definitely had, it's a great question, Jessica. We definitely had, a lot of those conversations, right? Because, during specific moments during the civil unrest, right? It was not right to go out with specific messaging that maybe was insensitive to the times, right? So of course we had those conversations and at times did rework some of the plans, right? To be very sensitive to the moment, right? And to be very sensitive to what was happening and to George Floyd and to everything, unfortunately, that was happening, that has been happening, but was happening during that time. I do want to say something because, as you know, we joined Havas, which is a global network, and I'm so proud to say that Havas, joined forces with us, a Miami-based firm, 2 years ago, right? And Havas, we're in 100 countries, but what the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, with all of that unfortunate, those unfortunate moments and times, loss of life created, is I think a lot of companies and brands to look within, right? And at Havas, I could say that I'm proud to say that we did a lot nationally, not only here in Miami, but nationally in New York and Chicago, in Atlanta and California, all over the country. Havas started looking within, right? And we launched something called Commit to Change. And Commit to Change is a national effort where over the course of the next year, I mean, it's going to be ongoing after that, but we are going to be much more sensitive and inclusive in many areas, right? As a company and as an organization. And I'm proud to say that for the first time, we now have a North America for Havas Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which I have the honor to serve on, that is a committee that is representative of our communities of color, of LGBTQ+, and that is helping Havas shift the conversation to have more. Did we lose Jessica? I think we lost her. To have more people in leadership that are diverse, people throughout the ranks that are diverse, to be more inclusive in how we look at our messaging and our advertising. All of that, again, as I was saying earlier, as you look back, although we lost their precious lives, I can say that a lot of this is coming out of that moment, Eric and Carol Ann. So we lost Jessica, unfortunately.
Yeah, we did. Hopefully she'll come back in. But to your point, George, it has opened our eyes to how we need to come together more as human beings.
100%.
Deal with the issues that confront us, and at the end of the day, we're all here together, and it's going to take us working together, as you said, to really make the changes that need to happen. But I just want to thank you. Well,
you're back, Jessica.
Yeah, tried to stop me, but I was able to hear your answer on Facebook. I heard everything.
Okay, great. But you heard what I said.
Congratulations. Yes, that's great. Commitment to change.
And I agree with Eric. We all got to come together. In Spanish, there's a Spanish saying is "En la unión está la fuerza." In unity, there is power, right? And I believe that. I believe that the more we come together as communities and that we build bonds and that we help each other, that's how we're all going to continue to succeed.
That's great. Congratulations. And thank you so much for all of the insight that you were able to give us.
No, Jessica, my pleasure.
Well, Jessica, I'm gonna let you wrap it up. And I appreciate George and his time that he's given us and your time and all that you do for the marketing committee. So I want to thank everyone for coming on, but Jessica, I'm gonna let you close us out.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We see you, Anthony. We see you, Cedric. Thank you, Barbara, for joining us. Carol Ann Taylor, we appreciate your insight. Please continue to join the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce every day at 4 p.m. where we provide insight and information specifically, not just for members, but for everyone. I encourage you to join the PR and Marketing Committee. You can reach out to Matthew Pygott at the Miami-Dade Chamber or myself to obtain membership information, as well as to join the Marketing Committee. We want and welcome each and every one of you. Together, we are in this and we can make a change. We appreciate you and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, Eric, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you, Jessica, to you, to Eric, to Matt, to Caroline, to all of you. Thank you. It's been such a privilege and honor to be here. And we'll see each other around soon, hopefully socially distanced for now.
Right, right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey.
Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.